Moving along, I think you're going to notice that Esperanza is growing up in this book pretty quickly. This next chapter, Hips, makes me think she's probably in middle school by this point. So it starts with childhood rhymes. Again, these are the kind of things that girls would sing when they were jumping rope, various just like play songs that they sort of would hum all the time, little rhymes. But this is called Hips, and it's about the fact that the girls are noticing that they are starting to get hips. So they're starting to mature, and they're thinking about what that means. They say, oh, it's good for holding a baby when you're cooking. They say that you need them to dance. So they're starting to think about the fact that they're becoming young women and that boys are going to be interested in them. There's some funny little beliefs they have, which are obviously not true, that if you don't get them, you may turn into a man, which is what Nenny says, which of course is ridiculous. And Esperanza said she is this way because of her age, which is clearly not in middle school. So they go on to say that hips are scientific, that they bloom like roses, that one day you might decide to have kids and you have to have a place to put them, you have to have room, the bones have to give. All of this is true. You don't have too many or your behind will spread. So that means like if you have too many kids, you're going to get fat. And then they say, you know, what I'm saying is who's ready? You got to be able to know what to do with hips when you get them. So they're starting to have like a serious conversation, Esperanza and her friends, about what does it mean to be like appealing to guys, to want to know guys, to think about becoming a mother, which means getting married. So all those big questions. Nanny keeps saying there's a lullaby to having hips, and that they start singing all the kind of things that that mothers sing to their children. So Esperanza says that what Nenny is saying is the dumbest thing ever. And Lucy says, yeah, but you got to get the rhythm and you start to like know how to dance and everything. So that's what they're talking about. And they start to get all excited about the fact that they can dance, and they're like, oh, I want to shake like hoochie coochie. I want to move like heebie jeebie. So it's showing here this sort of, I don't know, tension between the desire to grow up and also the desire to stay young, because some of these little songs are the same kind of things that they would sing when they were probably in third or fourth grade. So it's just a sort of a juxtaposition of childhood songs and more grown-up songs. So everyone's getting into it now except for Nenny, who's still just like a little baby. And then it just goes on to back to the old-fashioned songs that Nenny kind of dominates at the end here. You know, my mother and your mother were washing clothes. These are all the childhood songs that they sing again. So I think the main thing to notice from this is that there's a shift again in this story where Esperanza and her friends are starting to grow up and they want to talk about it, but they're also a little bit uncomfortable. They have Nenny with them, who clearly is not anywhere near puberty yet, and she still wants to sing the songs from their childhood. So it's just a true representation, really, of what it's like to start growing up a little bit. Then we have, I would say, probably Esperanza in high school, or at least early high school, unless maybe she's able to work before she's 15 years old. But it does say that she needs money. The Catholic high school costs a lot. So either she's already in the Catholic high school or she's about to start at the Catholic high school. So this is showing us too that, you know, even though they're poor, that they are going to the Catholic high school. They're going to a private school. And so that probably takes a tremendous amount of money when you think about how many kids they have. So she needs a job, and she doesn't want a job like other people have. Like, you know, she wants something easy, you know, maybe like the kinds other kids have, like working in a dime store or at a hot dog stand. But she doesn't really know if those would be easy or not. And when I come home that afternoon, all wet because Tito had pushed me into the open water fire hydrant area. So like this is something they do in the city, is they open the water hydrants, the fire hydrants, and let the water splash and kids play in it. and she had sort of let him. So this is sort of an indication that Esperanza is flirting with some of the kids at school. Mama called me in the kitchen before I could even go and change, and Aunt Lala was sitting there drinking her coffee with a spoon, which is an interesting image, and she said she'd found a job for her at the Peter Pan Photo Finishers on North Broadway. So this could be a quiz question. I also added Aunt Lala to our list of characters at the front of the book. She's the person you can remember who basically got Esperanza her first job. You probably don't really know what a photo finisher is. If you think about going into a Walgreens or a CVS to the photo department, that's where they develop film. In the old days, which would have been back in the 1970s and 80s, there were actual stores that's all they did. And of course, you could also go to Walgreens or any grocery store and get film developed. So this is long before the digital camera. And so this job, she has to be older than she currently is to work there. So she's told to lie about her age and say that she's 1 year older. And so that's what she does. She goes the next day. She has to borrow money for the lunch and bus fare because she wouldn't get paid till the next week. And she goes in and sees the boss and tells her Aunt Lala sent her, and she lies about her age, and she gets hired that very same day. So she explains what her job is, that she's supposed to match negatives to their prints, which means that when you would develop film, you would get negatives, which is like a little brown strip that shows like the actual pictures, and you could take those negatives back and make reproductions of them. So whenever you would get your film developed with pictures, you would also get the negatives so you could make more copies. And so all she has to do is literally match those negative strips to the pictures for each customer. So she just stands and does that, and she's very nervous, like a lot of people are at their first job, not knowing if she can sit while she's doing this work. So she stands the whole time, and she gets kind of tired. And then when she sees the other people who are doing the same work sitting, she does it too. And they say, oh, you can sit when you want. And she's like, I know. But of course she didn't know. At lunch, she was afraid to eat by herself in the company lunchroom with all those men and ladies looking. So she ate really fast in one of the bathroom stalls. And then she had time left over and didn't know what to do with it. So she went into the coat room and just kind of hung out there and sat down on a bench. So this is a creepy thing that happens to her. And I think this would have been one of those early memories that she carried with her into adulthood. And just like one of those moments when you realize like men can be very scary. And she's in there, and an older Oriental man comes in, which of course we wouldn't say Oriental anymore, we would say Asian, and says hello. And they talk for a while about her just starting. And he said that they could be friends, and that next time she should go to the lunchroom and sit with him, and she could eat with him, and it makes her feel better. He had nice eyes, and I didn't feel so nervous anymore. Then he asked if I knew what day it was, and he said it was his birthday, and would I please give him a birthday kiss? Uh-oh. This reminds me of the bum on the street who offered Rachel money to kiss him. And I thought I would because he was so old. So she assumes like it's nothing gross, like he just wants a kiss. And so she goes to kiss his cheek, which is what she thinks is the polite thing to do. It's like if you were kissing a grandparent. And he grabs my face with both hands and kisses me hard on the mouth and doesn't let go. So welcome to the working world for Esperanza. It's a terrible thing to happen to a little girl. The next one is another moment, another coming of age moment, which is when someone in your family dies. So Papa comes into Esperanza's room and says that her grandfather has died. Or abuelita, actually, I think that might be the grandmother. We'll find that out. So he has to go to Mexico for that funeral. There will be, and there's a good description of what that would be like. There'll be a black and white photo taken in front of the tomb with flowers shaped like spears in a white vase. This is how they send the dead away in that country. Because I'm the oldest, my father, who has told me first, and now it is my turn to tell the others. So this is showing like what their family structure is like. Because Esperanza is the oldest, she has certain responsibilities. Her father comes and tells her, and then it's her job to tell her siblings, which is interesting. As I said that, I knew I was absolutely wrong. That is not true. Esperanza is not the oldest. The two brothers are the oldest, and yet he goes to her. So this is something I think I would definitely mark, that as the oldest girl in the family, she has to sort of step up and be like a parent, basically, and tell, the other kids that their grandparent has died. And so this is different. I think other cultures would probably go to the oldest child, period, or possibly go to the male child, regardless of age, perhaps. So it's just interesting how different cultures have different approaches to things like this. And she really struggles with the fact that her father is so sad. I think if my own papa died, what would I do? I hold my papa in my arms. I hold and hold and hold him. So she's comforting her father. So this is a very transitional moment for her. She's acting, like the way her mother would act, in terms of how she sort of takes the responsibility for telling the siblings, how she comforts her father, how she thinks about what it means to go and bury a parent, which is what her father's going to have to do. The next one is a situation, born bad, where Esperanza is told by her mother that she's going to go to hell because she was born on an evil day. And the reason that this comes up is because of what we did to Aunt Lupe. So that means Esperanza and her friends did something to Aunt Lupe. So I did put Aunt Lupe in our list of new characters. Aunt Lupe, and these could be quiz questions, was pretty, like my mother. She had beautiful clothes. She was a swimmer. She had swimmer's legs. But Esperanza only knows her as being sick from a disease that would not go. And we don't really know what that is. Definitely, it makes me think of cancer. But when we read about kind of what the rumors are about what happened to her, we're really not sure what happened to her. She might be paralyzed from an injury. So it's hard to imagine that her legs were once strong. I don't know who decides who deserves to go bad. There was no evil in her birth, no wicked curse. One day I believe she was swimming, and the next day she was sick. So this is kind of what Esperanza understands about her Aunt Lupe. It might have been the day that gray photograph was taken. Don't know what that is. It might have been the day she was holding cousin Tachi and baby Frank. I'm guessing these are her cousins, her Lupe's children. It might have been the moment she pointed to the camera for the kids to look and they wouldn't. Maybe the sky didn't look the day she fell down. Maybe God was busy. It could be true she didn't dive right one day and hurt her spine, so this is a rumor. Or maybe the story that she fell very hard from a high step stool. So this makes me think she has a spinal injury. But I think diseases have no eyes. They pick with a dizzy finger anyone, just anyone. So this is Esperanza, again, becoming more mature. A lot of people talk about someone is cursed or, there's a reason why something bad happens. And she says, no, I think this kind of thing is random. Like my aunt, who happened to be walking down the street one day in her Joan Crawford dress, and somehow something happened and she got sick. It's just random. It was a game, that's all. Okay, so now we're pivoting away from what happened to Aunt Lupe to why Esperanza's mother thinks she was born bad. They were playing a game where they would imitate people. They invented this game. In fact, Esperanza says it was probably her who invented the game. You had to pick someone you could imitate, and everyone else would have to guess who it was. So it started with famous people. And then at some point, it devolved to picking Aunt Lupe. Maybe we were bored. Maybe we got tired. We liked my aunt, so they like her. And yet they started to imitate the way she moves because she's sick. So it goes on to talk about that, the aunt was blind, that, even though they liked Aunt Lupe, Esperanza didn't like to go there alone. You had to walk 6 blocks to the apartment. She never saw the dirty dishes in the sink, so her apartment was dirty. She couldn't see the ceilings dusty with flies. So she's living kind of in filth, and her aunt doesn't know it because her aunt is blind at this point. My aunt was like a little oyster, a little piece of meat on an open shell for us to look at. Hello, as if she had fallen into a well. This is how Esperanza describes her illness. I took my library books to her house. I read her stories. This could be a quiz question. I liked the book, The Water Babies. She liked it too. I never knew how sick she was until that day I tried to show her one of the pictures in the book. I held the book and her aunt says, I can't see it, I'm blind. And then I was ashamed. She listened to every book, every poem I read to her. One day I read her one of my own poems. And so this is, I think I would make sure you know this. This is one of Esperanza's own poems. I want to be like the waves on the sea, like the clouds in the wind, but I'm me. One day I'll jump out of my skin. I'll shake the sky like 100 violins. That's nice, says her aunt. And then her aunt gives her very important advice. I could see this as being on a quote test or something. You must remember to keep writing, Esperanza. You must keep writing. It will keep you free. And I said yes, but at that time I didn't know what she meant. So clearly, she gives her advice that she remembers for her whole life. So that day we played the game. So after she has this nice encounter with her aunt, that's the day they play the game. We talk the way she talked, the way blind people talk without moving their head. We imitated the way you had to lift her head so she could drink. So it's super sad that they're making fun of her being so sick. We didn't know. She'd been dying such a long time. We forgot. Maybe she was ashamed. Maybe she was embarrassed to look so many years. It took so many years. The kids who wanted to be kids instead of washing dishes and ironing their papa's shirts. And then the husband who wanted a wife again. And then she died. So the day after they played that game and they imitated her, she died. And then we began to dream the dreams. So I put a question mark by this. I don't know what that means. We don't have to know an answer to everything. This could mean dreaming bad dreams because they'd done something kind of mean and then the woman died. Or it could be that she began dreaming of the advice that her aunt gave her, which is that she needs to keep writing and think about her future. It could be anything here. But I think what's important to know is to be born bad was because she imitated her dying aunt, and then her aunt dies. It's like her mother is blaming her for that, like that was, you cursed your aunt by making fun of her. This last one we're going to look at today is another example of a character who would be influential on a young person. Many of you may have been superstitious when you were younger, believing in horoscopes or, fortune tellers or any, good luck signs, anything like that. So Elenita, I also added her to our list of characters. She's the witch woman. Basically, she's a fortune teller. Esperanza goes to her house. The description of this home doesn't seem much like a fortune teller. It seems like a person who's just trying to make some money. The child's name is Ernie, who is feeding the baby and has spilled the Kool-Aid. So when Esperanza comes in, there's sort of chaos in the house because Elenita's two children have made a mess. She says, good lucky you didn't come yesterday. So of course, this is that cute phrase her mother, Esperanza's mother, used. I'm sorry, not Esperanza's mother. Sandra's mother, Sandra Cisneros, that the author in her introduction, she talks about her mother saying good lucky, that she was a writer and that she did well. So this is clearly just like a phrase that the Mexican community sort of picked up. Instead of saying good luck, they say good lucky. So Elenita says this too, and this makes me think of Sandra Cisneros' mother. It describes the television, all the furniture, which is pretty weird, like it's all red fur and stuff like that, and they have it covered in plastic because of the baby. And she says, oh, it's a good day to get your palm read or to get your fortune told because yesterday the stars were bad. And it describes like all the things in the house, the candles, the picture of the voodoo hand taped to the wall, all these things. And so she says, get the water. I go to the sink and pick the only clean glass, a beer mug that says the beer that made for Milwaukee famous, and fill it up with hot water from the tap, and then put the glass of water on the center of the table the way she taught me. So this shows me that Esperanza comes to this lady often. She's a regular at this fortune teller person. And they go through this whole ritual, and the whole thing is very fake. Esperanza clearly does not believe it. In the meantime, she's thinking about how she kind of wishes she could be in the other room with Ernie and the baby watching Bugs Bunny cartoons. And she sort of goes through the motions with Elenita. When Elenita says, do you feel the cold? Esperanza lies and says, yes, but she doesn't. Then she says, okay, so the spirits are here. That's what that means. And so on the next page, she gets this very strange fortune, which honestly doesn't make any sense except for when Esperanza says, well, what about a house? Because that's what I came for. So remember, Esperanza does not like living on Mango Street. The house on Mango Street is not like the house her parents said that they would have. And she really wants a better house. We know this too because she's been ashamed of her house when other people make comments about where she lives. And so Elenita says, oh yes, a home in the heart. I see a home in the heart. Well, that's not what Esperanza is talking about. She means a real house, not like a home in the heart, which to me means a loving home, a home where everybody takes care of each other, which is of course what Esperanza has, but she wants like a real house. That's what I see, she says, and then she gets up because the kids are fighting. Elenita gets up to hit and then hug them, which is also sort of a startling image. She really does love them, only sometimes they are rude. She comes back and she can tell that Esperanza is disappointed. So she says, don't forget to do all these other things. Like, you can come back another day. We can try again. Maybe the stars will be better on a Thursday, is what she says. Esperanza thinks to herself that even though this particular fortune telling wasn't very good, that Elenita does know many things. And these are some of the details of what she knows. Like if you have a headache, you put an egg on your face. You can use a chicken foot to forget an old romance. There's all a bunch of things you can do to sort of like deal with your stress during the day. That's kind of what I interpret this to be. But really, the only thing she's told is that she has a home in the heart, and we already know that's true. And of course, isn't that the safest thing for anyone to say to Esperanza, who already knows her? She gives her $5. So Esperanza has a job now working at the photo finishers. Maybe she's using some of her money to get her fortune told, which of course is a waste of that money. And she says, well, come back on a Thursday. Maybe there'll be more that I can tell you. And then she shuts the door.